All right, guys, a little different scenery here today, but it's cold. Mike's out. Kristen's got to stay in the office to answer the phone. Julie's doing some filing. So literally it's just two of us sitting here right now because Mom's going to the bank and getting some other paperwork done. But this is a video that's very important. I've got one of my very good customers that buys a lot of vehicles from me, but no offense when he buys something elsewhere. It's free world. I don't have everything that everybody in the world could want. And at the time, he wanted a newer style Bronco. Could have gone to auction and found one. He had some specific requests as far as what he wanted. And, you know, what he wanted to do, how he wanted to build it, everything else. So, lo and behold, he found one in Florida. And again, this is a PSA, guys, public service announcement, for those that don't know, or an FYI. About some things to be very cautious about, and it's getting worse as things are changing in this economy. I talked to our VIAD, a Virginia Independent Auto Dealers Association representative this morning because I want a little bit more advice about this situation and something to tell my friend slash customer as to what his rights are. So when he got this truck, he immediately sent it to us. Fairly new Bronco, big body Bronco. Had some customizations and some power upgrades and things like that. That we don't normally deal with. So again, not upset that he got it one bit. He was more upset to tell me he bought it than I was that he bought it. This guy's bought 50, 60, 70 vehicles from me. He's a very regular customer. We treat all our customers the same. I wouldn't mind if this was a customer that bought one vehicle from me that was asking this advice, but this one happens to be a customer that I'm talking to almost every day. So he says, JW, check my truck out. So he brought it in, we checked it out. We found it had a bad axle. CV axle was split. The truck was lifted. We went over to lift kit. We tightened some things up. Normal things. Nothing really bad, but he did spend $400 or $500 on some parts and labor on some things that could have been related to safety that would not have passed a Virginia inspection. He needed a Virginia inspection. Came from Florida. So he's not a guy to complain at all, but the sales manager called and said, hey, how'd you like your truck? He said, dude, everything was good. Transportation was good, but I did have to put a CV axle in it. Now, he also had us change the tires. He wanted something a little bit more road friendly. We did a lot of other things. But so he had a $6,000 or $7,000 invoice of things we did. But the only thing he complained about was the axle. And he didn't even complain. The sales manager asked, so he just said, hey, I did have to replace an axle. Sales manager said, send me the invoice. We'll reimburse you. Cool. No problem. Gets a copy from me, sends it to them. And again, I just got this phone call yesterday. Almost 90 days has passed since all this took place. I figured everything's good. He's bought a truck from me since then. It's been titled. It's registered. Was delivered the next day. He got all his paperwork. He got his key fobs. He got everything he asked for. That's probably why he does business with us. Everything went like it was supposed to. He said, Dave, I got to ask you a question. He said, I'm coming up on 90 days. They still hadn't reimbursed me for my money. It's $400 or $500. He said, I'm not worried about it. You know that. I said, I understand. He said, I've yet to talk to the owner of this company other than the day that I was on the fence about buying it, and he got on the phone over top of the sales manager and talked me into buying the truck. He said he didn't really talk me into it, but he sealed the deal, got the paperwork right, got the numbers right. He said, but since then, I've been asking him, because they had this special top on it, they promised me a different top. And I was like, yeah, I remember you mentioning that to me. He said, well, it wasn't so bad until we had this freezing weather and snow. And he said, now the inside of my truck is literally not only wet, but my seats have ice on them. He said, so I'm getting a little perturbed. I want this top that they promised me that I'd get right away, that he still hadn't got. So he got tired of the sales guy. He said, hey, let me talk to your owner. He said he's got about a dozen or more, maybe 15 texts like, hey, can you just have the owner call me? And again, this is a business owner of a pretty big company. He's not hard to get along with. He just wanted to talk to somebody to, one, tell them, hey, you're kind of not running your business the best way. Two, he wants to find out where his title is. This is the reason for this video. He doesn't have his title. He paid cash for the vehicle, wired them the money. Literally, he said he had a conversation with the owner. They agreed on a price. He wired him the money within minutes. And then it took, however long to get the truck shipped up here. Again, he came to us to check over. He does that all the time, just like a truck with us. If I'm selling a truck, it still goes through all of our shop processes to make sure that it's 100%. So he's not only perturbed about not getting his check, he hasn't gotten his top. He hasn't been able to speak to the owner of the company. and he doesn't have his title. So just so you guys know, in Virginia, there's 30 days for a title. Now, things really went catastrophic during COVID. And I have a little bit more reason to be upset about COVID because COVID became a huge excuse, and COVID was the excuse that my dad passed away. Again, whole video about that coming here in the near future. But COVID was used for every excuse there was. Now, with paperwork and titles and car business, I can tell you, banks were closed. When COVID first hit, the banks closed completely. Then they went to online and drive-through. But when you're paying off a vehicle or getting a title or doing some transactions like that, there were legitimate delays. Those delays are over. COVID's gone, guys. There is no more COVID excuses that should be out there at all for any industry. But COVID did affect titles. That's what I was going with that. We saw delays. Everybody understood delays. Rules were bent a little differently. And let me just explain the process. Let's just say you come in and put on paper. Kristen actually had to go through this little school with me when he first got here because he didn't quite understand payoffs and things. Let's just say you roll in with a Bronco and I'm giving you $40,000. You owe, if you're lucky, $30,000. So you got $10,000 worth of equity. This is what you're getting. This is what you owe. This is your equity. So you can get this in cash. You can get this in trade credit. You can get this however you want. But 40 is what we gave. 30 is what you owe. This 30 has to go out to the bank, credit union, whoever it's with. In doing that, you have to actually pay it off. So you see a lot of dealers get the slip and say, when's your next payment due? Let's just say we're doing this on June 1st. Your payment's not due till June 20th. This gives the dealer time. The dealer gets this money. The dealer gets this amount of equity, which he can turn around and sell. So he's actually got more than what even the deal was at this point. So let's just say June 1st is when we did this deal. June 20th is when your payoff was due. Unfortunately, most dealers wait it out and pay it off here. Some even wait longer. I will tell you, when we do a payoff, whether it's a trade-in or a purchase, we have people come in all the time, sell their trucks. Can't afford the payment, going through a divorce, whatever, we buy it. Before the customer leaves my office, and this should be protocol for everybody, Mom already has, she handles the payoffs. She has the check cut for the customer's money, and she has the check cut for the payoff. If she's not wiring it, which is done immediately, it goes out the next day with tracking so that we know where it's going, with instructions, with everything else. There's no need delaying. You have to pay it off. And where I'm going with this is, and I'm not saying it happened with this dealer, that's just a dealer trick to float money. It doesn't work for anybody. During COVID, it really put people in a bind, because if you floated it and then it took all this extra time to get it, it was a big problem. In Virginia, you have to get a lien procured or secure a title to the customer within 30 days. Now, when there's a lien involved, there's a third-party person with interest, meaning not only is DMV will give you a slap on the wrist, the banks will call and say, where's my title? So that's why you want to do these processes fast, and that's where most dealers fall down, unfortunately. I know there's a ton that do it right. I know firsthand there's a ton that does it wrong. And I feel like we've got this situation here. This customer paid for the vehicle. There's no lien. And he's an easy guy. He wasn't bugging. He wasn't doing anything until this point. Now, I don't know Florida's law, but I do have my guy checking on it for him, because at this point he's so frustrated, he just wants his money back. And I feel like he's entitled to that. If there's a reason in Virginia that it goes past 30 days, it's got to be documented pretty well. It shouldn't go longer than that. I feel like Florida and other states, maybe Texas. And the reason for this video is this is the third customer recently we've had that's had a scenario like this. We have a lot of customers that have the wherewithal to buy vehicles. $100,000, $200,000, $300,000. They write a check or they wire money. Not just with us, with other places. And it's too uncommon for this situation to happen, to where I've got to get a phone call with them asking me for advice when we're over here doing it as right as possible. We've got 2 vehicles right now that we're waiting for the weather to clear up before they ship to the customer. Customers already got the title. They got the title before they even got the vehicle. I don't like that. I'd rather them show up semi together, but you know, we don't delay. If you wire money, customer came in last night with a direct transaction meaning cash or wire funds. Those are immediate. You take your title with you. You know, sometimes we don't have it. Sometimes there's a payoff. It still does take a few days for that to happen, but if mom buys it on June 1st, pays it off on June 2nd, we probably have it within a week to 10 days. Sometimes it gets lost in the mail. Sometimes other things happen. And those are the excuses that dealers play off of. It's lost in the mail. It didn't get to me. You should be ahead of that. Again, that should not happen that way. And you should not have a customer that's as good as this man and as good as these other men that have called me recently, having to ask other dealers for opinion. It opens you up to lawsuits. It opens you up to vehicles being returned. I don't know how the law really reads, but you might be due the transportation money to reimburse the customer. That might be $1,500 one way, $1,500 the other. That might be $3,000 that you're out. There's some unfortunate circumstances, and I can't say that we didn't have any during COVID, because we did. We had them like everybody else did, but they were legitimate. They were documented. They were things that were out of our control. But people adopted COVID and excuses for delays and DMV. Another thing, DMV was closed. Then they reopened and they went to making appointments. Sometimes you couldn't get an appointment for 30 or 45 days. So there were legitimate excuses. DMV's open. DMV's normal. Banks are open. Banks are normal. Everything's back to normal. There's no reason this should be happening. There's no reason this man's gone 90 days without the title to his truck, which he paid for in good faith the day that they discussed it. There's also no reason for the owner not to call. He's in a meeting. He's in a meeting. I run every aspect of this business and other businesses and assist with other businesses, and I still get on the phone. If you get my voicemail, it says within 24 hours, usually the same day. Friday, I was out a little bit early. A couple messages piled up. They still got returned on Monday first thing. You can't hide from problems. I don't care what business you're in, this can relate. You can't hide from them. You might as well face them. This owner of this dealership's dodging this man that literally at first just wanted to talk to him and say, hey, man, I like my truck. I had a little issue. I didn't even expect y'all to pay. You offered to pay. That's cool. I'd like to get my top. And now the title. So now it's compiled to where he's pissed. He doesn't have his top. He doesn't have his title. He doesn't have his check. And he hadn't even talked to the owner. And it's making him infuriated because he's the owner of a business. And if he was not doing the same thing, if his clients were not getting responded to, they'd be pissed. No different. He knows that. He doesn't dodge it. He might go play golf. He might go out to dinner. He might do the things that normal people do in life, but he always gets the phone call back to the client, which is your customer. Most people get paid and they feel like that customer is not important anymore. That's where you ruin your business. So if anything else, this is just a little PSA for business, a little PSA for you guys that are buying out of state and thinking there's just can be all these excuses. There should not be any extra excuses. You should be able to get your title. You should be able to get your document of ownership. No different than if you go to the store and buy this drink, you get a receipt. You should be able to get all that. There should be no reason you don't get that. Make sure the guys are playing fair on the other end. Don't let them bully you. Just because you're in another state and you know they want to say, oh, well, if you want to sue me, you got to come to my state. I can promise you this man right here, he'll be sitting at your man's doorstep the next morning if he gets some bullshit answer like that. He doesn't play. This is an ex-Navy SEAL on top of that. So he's a pretty gangster guy when he needs to be, but he doesn't want to be. He's just a good dude that likes a lot of vehicles, buys a lot of vehicles, doesn't like to run around, and he's gotten in the middle of it. And that sucks. That really sucks. So this video is not pointed at anybody, not mentioning any names. They might follow our channel and see this, but any of you guys that are doing the same way, it will unfold on you eventually. It's not going to last forever. I've got so many stories to come about some shops doing some craziness, taking deposits, not working on things as expected, not doing the due diligence they're supposed to do, with even ordering parts with people's money. There's a lot of it happening. There's a lot of money floating. This is the perfect scenario. A car dealer has the most opportunity to do that in the world. my VA DA guy says, look, we're trying to pass laws to make this not happen. He said, we even want to tap into their bank accounts to make sure they can afford to pay these vehicles off. You'd be surprised. Some of these huge dealerships have no cash flow to where they are in a problem situation. They're robbing Peter to pay Paul, and that does not ever end well. So thanks, guys. Sorry this one got a little long-winded, but I think it's a very important one. Know your rights, know where things are. Don't ever hesitate to reach out to us, whether you're a regular customer or just a one-time customer. We'll be happy to give you the best advice possible and help you through a situation like we're doing with this guy. He's not asking for anything out of the ordinary. He's just asking for a phone call back, a couple bucks back, maybe a refund of his truck or his title. He's pretty easy to get along with. So thanks. Let you know how this turns out.